You know the common trend these days that you should not approach women because you might be accused of sexual harassment or called a creep. I think this is wrong because even if a woman is not interested, you are fine as long as you get the hint and move on. Also, I don't believe approaching works in scenarios where women are comfortable, so avoid approaching women wearing headphones or waiting for the bus, especially with a short time between bus arrivals and the gym. Story 1. It is a very good experience for building confidence in talking to women. It does not usually work, but it is a valuable experience. Story 2. Walking straight up to a woman and starting a conversation from nothing? I've maybe done this 20 times in 16 years. It only works if she is ready to immediately decide if you are interesting or not. Starting a conversation with a woman about what is already going on after I have positioned myself near her? Very regularly and very effective because it leaves a lot of room. For example, last weekend I was supporting my friend running his first half marathon. I ended up at the finish line for video and photos about 20 minutes before he came in. While standing there and keeping an eye out, an attractive woman came and stood near me, also looking for someone who would be finishing. It is easy to just say, "What a beautiful day for the race," don't you think? Since she smiled and gave a multiple-word answer, I asked, "Who are you watching for?" If she wants to talk to you, it is easy to go from there. If not, you just leave it. She wanted to talk. We have dinner plans for Wednesday. Her friend is going to go for a run with my friend next weekend. If she had been anything other than receptive, I would have smiled politely and made sure to give extra space to avoid making this any weirder for her and not bother her again at all. Story 3. I am much more of a fan of the warm approach. Engage with people platonically, and if a spark might fly based on some interaction, then consider offering an activity. Talking to someone you do not know does not provide much of a shared topic or justification other than appearance. Story 4. I did it one time at the mall since my old friend encouraged me. I saw a girl working at the food court, approached her, introduced myself while asking her name, complimented her, and asked if she was single. She said she had a boyfriend. I said, "Oh, he must be a lucky guy. Well, nice meeting you anyway," and walked away. It was an honest and civilized conversation, but I would not do it again right now. Story 5. Meh, it's just not worth it. The effort isn't worth the result. It's better to interact in more social settings where the expectation of being social is implied, and defenses are easier to overcome through light conversations and some laughs. Just walking up to girls with a cold approach is culturally outdated for most. It might work in less uptight non-Western cultures, but not where we are now. Story 6. I think it takes less effort than dating applications. The hard part for me is just walking up to approach them. Once I'm talking to them, I get lost in the moment, and at the end of the conversation, I ask for their number or social media. I think many men come up with excuses not to approach women as a way to validate what is really stopping them, which is the fear of rejection. I experienced that as well, but controlling that fear and being aware of it is important. My advice is, once you start thinking about approaching someone, just do it before your thoughts start spiraling and stop you from acting. I am also 5'3" or 5'4" tall, so maybe I am less scary or threatening to a woman. However, I can also have the perspective that I am too short for her and use that as an excuse not to approach. Story 7. Approach is not the word I use. Strike up a conversation is more accurate and less fraught, but that only works in non-noisy environments. Story 8. For the times I truly approached cold with nothing but hello stored in my brain, not that well. 2 no-shows and 1 sick triceratops. At least the raptor fences were not down. When I actually had something to say that might be relevant to where we are or what is happening, much better. At least in terms of how the conversation went. Because it was conversation for the sake of conversation, not conversation for the sake of getting contact information or trying to see if she wants to have sex. I have had much more success when starting off with normal conversation compared to, "Hey, you pretty." Sometimes just having a conversation with a friend nearby, where I am on good form, has been enough to get someone talking to me. Story 9. I have done it, but only in environments where it is acceptable, such as a bar. Even then, I do not recommend it. Story 10. If you are self-aware when approaching women, They will not see you as a creep. This means making sure you look presentable. Clean shirt, shaved, showered, and so on. Maintain your distance and do not invade their personal space. Be able to read body language so you can tell if she is interested in you or not. Fair or unfair, she may assume the worst, and it is your responsibility to show that you are not a creep and that you are safe. This includes keeping the conversation appropriate for all audiences. Story 11. Do bars count? If so, sometimes it's the cold shoulder, sometimes it's a good time, and sometimes there's some flirtation. I'm not in the game anymore, but if I were, I'd have no issue flirting whenever I felt like it because history has shown me that I'm guaranteed something after enough tries. If one woman isn't interested, there's another who would be. Not once have I ever wondered if I'd come off as creepy. That's not my concern. She either accepts my advances or doesn't. The end. I'm not going to jail just for flirting, and my ego can handle rejection. Story 12. I asked someone out last week whom I had an interaction with. I invited her out, and she said she was already involved with someone. I said that was too bad, but thanked her for letting me know. I somehow survived. The biggest thing I think is knowing who is in your league and accepting any answer as their answer. Story 13. It's been moderately successful. Generally, I approach, say hello, mention that I usually don't do this, and offer her my card, telling her to give me a call if she would like to grab lunch sometime. If she is not interested, I laugh it off and let her know that the loss is all mine. Then I leave. Story 14. Back in my dating days, by far the most success I had meeting women was on the dance floor. I am not even a good dancer. I just went out there and genuinely had fun. Women would notice that, and when I saw them, we would make eye contact and start dancing together. Then I would talk to them afterward and get their number. Story 15. Not that I am keeping score, but I have cold approached hundreds of women over the years and it has worked out more often than not. Story 16. I did this before and it ended badly most of the time, but it did remove some of my anxiety about talking to women. Nowadays, my mindset is, screw it, we ball. I'll just go talk to her about something. I ended up chatting with quite a few, even becoming regulars for some who were working at a store and establishing good rapport. It's good practice for learning what and how to talk to women, to be honest. Story 17. I have never tried. I do not know what to do or say, and every scenario I imagine seems awkward and strange. I was with my sister and mother at a cheesecake factory once. We were waiting in a hallway with benches. Across from me was a girl I found cute with her friend, I suppose. I texted my sister about it, and she said, "Go talk to her." I told her I did not know what to do. I grew up being told by society, "Do not even look at a woman in public. You are a dirty stare rapist." Story 18. I do not cold approach because, quite frankly, I am not good at it. I prefer to do what I call a warm approach, where you put yourself in situations where talking to a stranger is reasonable or even encouraged. There are far fewer awkward encounters, and it is a good way to make new friends as well. Story 19. What is your experience with cold approaching women? A long time ago, as a young single man, when I saw a young single woman I was interested in, if the moment presented itself, I would approach her, get her attention politely, and say something like, "Hey, sorry to bother you, but I think you're very attractive and awesome. I would love to get to know you better if you're not in a relationship currently. I'll be at that soda, coffee, or beer joint, depending on age and location, having a drink for a while. If you're interested, come by, and I'd love to see if we connect. If not, no worries, but I hope to meet you there." Sometimes it was a lively young woman chatting with her friends at an outdoor bar. These interactions usually went well because her friends would encourage her to engage with the clearly confident guy. Other times, it was a quiet young woman reading The Lord of the Rings for the first time at a cafe, or sometimes a focused young woman being herself in an art gallery. In summary, by being direct, polite, brief, and genuinely accepting of rejection, my reasonably attractive younger self had excellent experiences with cold approaching women. Story 20. Has not worked for me as far as long-term serious relationships, but has helped me get laid. Men here are right, it is entirely down to appearance. You can take a risk without the right appearance, but the chances of success are lower. Story 21. Most of my cold approaching is done in bars and other similar social spaces or events. I usually do not make any move unless I am reasonably sure I am not going to get rejected immediately. We have made eye contact. She is not totally engrossed with her friends, or maybe we have passed each other in the bar and exchanged a few words. That kind of thing. Then it is just a conversation. And as the original poster says, as long as you are polite and respectful, it is rarely going to end badly. You may misread the opening, she may be more intoxicated than you realize, but if it is not going anywhere or she makes it clear she is not interested, you bow out gracefully. I have never had a bad experience. Story 22. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. No one has a 100% success rate. Just be polite and don't push. If they say no, move on with your day. Story 23. Cold approaches do not work well because you first have to signal for them to take out their wireless earbuds, so you are already starting from a position of bothering them. You do not want to put yourself in a position where you are irritating others. Story 24. I did it many times in college. Each time, the woman made it clear she was not interested, and I moved on. I would not recommend it unless you are particularly attractive, but it was not particularly traumatic for anyone involved. Story 25. I used to try it in my early 20s. It did not work for me. What does work, though, is becoming friends with a woman and then progressing from there. Dating applications also work a lot better for me, so I primarily use those. Story 26. Cold approaching is interesting. It depends on how you define it. Personally, I think it is better to read someone's body language first. If a girl is walking across the street and a guy runs up behind her, most will not get lucky. But in my experience, if she is looking, orbiting, smiling, or showing any interest, those cold approaches usually have better odds. Story 27. It's tough, not just because it doesn't bring results, but also because I hardly find any opportunities to do it. I don't mind doing it at all, but the only time I can actually go out and do my thing is when most people are working or taking the day off with their partner. It's gotten to the point where I've started asking women for their number when they're working. It can range from the waitress to the ladies at the mall giving samples or assisting other customers. I tell them from the start that I understand they're working and they are free to tell me to buzz off, but they have all been super chill about it. I just feel bad for bothering them while they're working, but it is that or it just doesn't happen. Story 28. My experience is either a home run or a strikeout looking. My approach has always been either the smoothest thing in the world or the most awkward thing ever. It is a numbers game though, so who cares? Or it was a numbers game before I got married. Story 29. Pretty good. Met X in a shop. Met a really fun friend with benefits on a bus. Many other stories that stand out less. Story 30. I'm not even going to bother answering. All I have to say is this. Way too many people are overthinking dating. You do not have to ruin every single interaction with the opposite sex. Women are just people. If you are so socially inept that you cannot figure out which scenarios are appropriate for approaching a stranger, then you need a dating coach. Read the room, read their body language. If someone does not want to be approached, it is generally pretty obvious. Story 31. I would prefer a man to start a conversation beyond just complimenting my appearance, rather than come close and remain silent. Story 32. I always felt that it was inappropriate. The only place where I would feel okay doing it sober was house parties, where maybe multiple separate friend groups were invited but not introduced to each other. There, I always felt like we don't know each other, but we're in the same house party, so why not strike up a conversation? But I have still done it 3 times. All 3 times I was slightly drunk, which made me let go of my boundary. The first time was at a house party. A girl went out for a smoke, I did too. We talked, and 10 minutes later we kissed. Done deal. It ended with my first relationship. Funny to call it that now. I was 17, she was 16. We were having some fun with each other, but it was short. I lost my virginity with her, and she did with me too. It was fun, the first love I felt, although it was not true love, it was teen lust. The second time was later when I was 27. I had a long relationship between the first and second times, so no attempts in between. A girl was standing alone at the bar. I ordered a drink. I caught that she took a glimpse at me from the side of my eye. That was enough for me to introduce myself with a compliment. We had a good chat and got a date a few days later. The date was not so great, but I would still call the approach a success. The third time was not long after the second and just recently. I was with a friend at a bar. We got slightly drunk. My friend had to leave. I was already eyeing a girl from a group of 3 girls 2 tables away, and I caught her looking at me a few times too. Again, I was drunk confident. I went over when she was alone for a few minutes and politely told her, "I really don't usually do this, but I noticed you as I was sitting here with a friend, and I thought to myself, I would always be regretful if I didn't try to ask you out." She laughed cutely and told me she did not understand a word of what I was saying because she was from a different country, which was awkward. But the awkwardness turned into her giving me her number, and we are now dating. Story 33. Not good. I have never been the type to cold approach women, but it is just bad nowadays. Women say they want to be approached, but I do not think they really do. It is a strange paradox. Story 34. Pretty much a 70-30 rejection to success ratio. But well, it's fun to give approaching someone you like a chance every now and then. Really stressful, though. Story 35. I have tried it a few times, but it has never worked. I think many women are initially suspicious, so you are already starting from a point of weakness. I believe a warm or lukewarm approach is better. Approaching at parties, clubs, friends of friends, and even dating applications has worked better for me. It is widely accepted that this strategy typically relies on volume, but I would rather put that time into building a stronger social circle, which naturally creates opportunities. Story 36. I am married, so I have not done this recently, but cold approaching people requires stopping the use of opening lines like, "I noticed how you look attractive." Any comment similar to "me likey" is not an interesting way to start a conversation. Story 37. The last time I cold approached a woman, I was blackout drunk at a college bar my freshman year. We have been together 10 years now. Your mileage may vary. Story 38. I would say I have a successful conversation about half the time. I do not go in expecting much, but at least I get practice. Story 39. Not my style, never really tried it. But as long as you know when to accept rejection and move on, I do not see the harm in taking your chance. Story 40. I've only done it a few times, but it worked most of the time. I have no good advice other than it only works if you are attractive. Extra points if you are also funny. Edit. Also read body language. Her eyes will tell you everything. Story 41. You shouldn't approach women is an assumption. It's not even a very good assumption. If you approach someone with friendly intent and simply say hello and introduce yourself, there is nothing inherently creepy about that. You can even say, "Hey, I'm here with some friends and noticed you from across the room. I really liked your t-shirt. The Wiggles are my favorite band, so I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Dick." Maybe throw in a joke. Converse for a few seconds or minutes. Then shoot your shot. "Hey look, I have to run. But if you aren't busy later, I'd love to grab coffee, a drink, or go for a walk around the lake with you and see where the conversation goes." It only gets creepy if you seem incredibly nervous, which may be endearing to some but can come off as anxious vibes to most, or if you linger or don't take no for an answer. The biggest detriment to modern dating is this narrative that there are implicit rules about who you can talk to, when, and why. It's not reasonable to go through life worried about offending everyone. If you're living your life authentically, you are going to offend someone sooner or later. It will happen. It's not inherently an evil thing to do, so start asking yourself, how do I do the thing I want to do in a friendly and polite way? And then just do it and be respectful if people communicate they aren't receptive or want space. It's not easy to cold approach, but it is easily the most effective way to have a shot with any given person. People won't left swipe an authentic conversation as thoughtlessly as they will a dating profile. Still, people have preferences, might be busy in the middle of other conversations and so on. Read the room. Be cool. Forget about leagues and people who are out of them. Go have some authentic conversations where your only goal is to leave someone better off than you found them and to learn something. I promise you'll create many wonderful and unexpected opportunities. Compliment people. Ask about it. Nice shirt. Where did you buy it? Sweet glasses. What made you go with the green lenses? I saw your tattoo. Do you know a lot about astrology? Ask people how they are or just be curious. Hey, I don't usually do this, but you look sad. Is everything all right? How do you like that book? I was considering reading it because my professor recommended it. Wow, this is a long line. Do you know if the pancakes are good here? Earnestness is a lost art. Make good eye contact and speak with genuine curiosity and earnestness, and you generally aren't doing anything wrong. Story 42. Cold approach truths. Effective if attractive. Considered sexual harassment if unattractive. Only do so if you have become the best version of yourself in terms of looks, fashion, and social skills, thereby increasing success. Effective if accompanied by a female friend acting as a wingwoman, which makes the approached female more comfortable. Story 43. It has honestly never worked out for me. You have to be a certain kind of man and focus on a certain kind of woman for it to work. I got a few phone numbers, but it never amounted to anything. Story 44. In my experience, it has never been negative. Nobody has ever pepper sprayed me or anything. I am respectful and they will be respectful too and always say thank you, but I am in a relationship. I do not get upset and just politely end the conversation. Story 45. I do not do it because I do not like dating women I do not know anything about. Men do it because it works, though. Story 46. I never really did it. I do not have the face card, and I am short. I know which guys women want to approach, and it is not me. I spare myself the humiliation ritual. Story 47. It is great for building self-assurance, developing social awareness, and reducing anxiety related to interactions with women. When it comes to starting relationships and having sex, cold approaching alone requires significant effort to be effective. I cold approached many times in the first half of 2024, often more than once a day during daytime. I have not approached in a while. I recommend it with the additional advice to enjoy the experience regardless of the outcome. Story 48. After talking about some mutual interests, I have had decent luck with, "Hey, can I give you my number?" rather than, "Hey, can I get your number?" Sometimes they will be like, "Yeah, text yourself." Story 49. I just talk to women. If I sense chemistry, I go from there. Cold approach is completely possible. People are often focused on sex and cannot read the room, so it often fails for inexperienced men. Story 50. It is bad etiquette to speak to female strangers without a reason or an introduction by a mutual acquaintance. This rule did not appear out of thin air. It exists to protect both parties from fear and embarrassment they may cause themselves. Story 51. I have never done it in my life. The only times I have had or pursued relationships were with friendships that I sensed were becoming something more or thought so. Story 52. It is fine if you do not be a weirdo. Do not stir someone's drink with your finger or dip your donut in someone's coffee. It is not slick. Story 53. I don't. When I am single, I generally wait for someone to give a signal that they are interested. Then I will approach. I do not just hit on anyone. Story 54. I usually try to make eye contact first. It's all in the eyes and the certain look a woman gives you that shows she's attracted to you or interested in you. You can just feel it. If there is no eye contact and the facial expressions show disinterest, I'm not going to even try. Story 55. I have not tried it. I do not often encounter women in situations where they would be approachable, and even if I did, I am the last person they would want approaching them. Story 56. It's just my opinion, but I would say leave women you do not already know or have been introduced to alone. How do you meet women? Get out and do things. Story 57. At the end of the day, you have a woman or you do not. If you want to act high and mighty because you never approached anyone, did not bother anyone, and did not get called a creep, congratulations. You are still alone and have nothing to show for it. Story 58. When I was younger and this was in its heyday, I did it but felt weird about it. Most guys in my high school and college peer group told me it was normal. Now, I know it is really weird unless you are literally just the type to casually talk to strangers and it develops naturally. Obviously, this excludes places where it is more the opted-in and desired norm, such as certain types of bars and clubs. Doesn't it sound strange to just cold approach a complete stranger who is hurriedly running to their local grocery store in sweats, just trying to go from point A to point B, to see if you can get them to have sex with you or date you? Even the language is telling. Cold approaching. What are we doing business-to-business sales, but for purchasing our manhood or something? I think it reinforces the idea that a man's worth is determined by whether he is having sex and how attractive the woman he is with is. I am not saying if you see a girl in a store and she smiles at you, so you smile back and then you talk. I want to make that distinction. I am saying, oh, that girl is a 10. I am going to go get her. I am also the type of person who likes to meet future partners through social groups where it is not cold. You meet them through a friend, at a workout class, or maybe at a concert where you end up dancing and catching a vibe together with a shared favorite musical artist. You start with something you already connect over, so your mileage may vary. Story 59. Closed mouths go unfed. You have to say something, you have to approach. What if a woman finds you attractive but isn't showing it because she expects you, as the man, to initiate and approach her? You will miss out because of thoughts like, if she is interested, she will have to find the courage to approach me. No, come on, gentlemen. It does happen sometimes, but more often than not, a woman wants to be approached, especially if she has already noticed the man and finds him attractive. Like with anything else, practice makes perfect and makes things easier. The more you talk to women and treat them like any other human being, that is, respectfully, the easier it gets. Expect rejection. Everyone gets rejected for one reason or another. Social skills are the foundation. If you lack those but work out daily or lead with your finances, you will just be some buff guy in a sports car who does not make eye contact and stammers in the presence of a woman he finds attractive, which would be quite laughable. Story 60. I had an older woman tell me that I need to compliment women to flirt with them and get their phone number. I was also wondering if that would work today. Story 61. Bad. The best that I have gotten is, sure, this is my Instagram. The rest is kind of the reason I do not approach women in general. Story 62. Cold approaching is nonsense. The law of averages suggests that it must work occasionally by reducing it to a pure numbers game, but it also increases the likelihood of something becoming really awkward or worse. Not only that, but when cold approaching, you are relying solely on looks and how a woman behaves in a public setting, so the chances of going on a date with someone unsuitable also increase dramatically. I tried cold approaching when I was younger and never got any results. I have never met any men in real life who said they met their girlfriend or wife through cold approaching. I know more men who met their partner at a bar or restaurant than through cold approaching, which says a lot given how rare it is for single women to be at establishments alone. Maybe this means I am not that attractive, and yes, if I were very handsome, cold approaching might be more worthwhile. Then again, if I were that handsome, why would I approach random women like a sleazy salesperson instead of meeting them in a natural way? Story 63. Maybe it's an age thing, but my brother is 65, single, and maybe a 5 or 6 at best. He has a casual, respectful, cold approach to women in his age range, estimated late 50s to upper 60s. He says he hasn't had any bad experiences with being turned away and has had some good experiences of being accepted. He keeps staying in the game, hoping for a long-term relationship, but not necessarily marriage. Story 64. I did fine. I have been married for a while, but I have gone out with many women whom people say you should not ask out. At the gym, my server or bartender, someone random on the street or in a store, even a working stripper once. Literally wherever I saw a woman I wanted to meet. Story 65. You have to have courage, son. Courage. It separates the men from the boys. 90% of Reddit users do not have it. I married the last girl I cold approached. How did I do it? Courage, son. Courage. Do you need me to draw you a picture? Story 66. Translation. What is your experience with bothering strangers in public? Logically, it would be similar to begging for money. No one really wants to deal with you or has enough time to properly assess if they want to have anything to do with you, but they will sometimes give you a few pennies or their fake number just to entertain you so you can go away sooner. Story 67. My time to shine. I always approach by showing interest in the person, not just interest in the attraction. Then I add a bit of flirty banter, subtle but not a direct compliment or overt flirt. I treat it like any interaction, similar to making a friend briefly at the bar or while grocery shopping. Pro tip: flirt with older women. They really enjoy it, it leads nowhere, and it helps build your confidence. I am married, and I keep the skill sharp. It is no different than an elevator pitch. People are drawn to charisma. Good luck, stranger. Story 68. In retrospect, I always struck out when I tried pickup lines and attempted to be witty and clever from the start. When I was just myself, women found me much more desirable to be around. Some were platonic, some were curious, and some were very interested. All, at least from my point of view, were comfortable during the interaction. Story 69. Most men know that cold approach is frowned upon, which is why men who do it, pickup artists, often commute upwards of 1 hour in order to cold approach. They know it is an unpopular move. That is why they do not do it in their own neighborhoods. This is also why many pickup artists are banned from malls, college campuses, clubs, and bars for cold approaching. It is not really a matter of how you approach. As long as a female does not like you or what you did, she will go straight to security, and they will always take the female's word over yours. Nobody likes a pickup artist. Story 70. I prefer a woman to approach me directly or, at the very least, show me with flirtatious glances that she wants me to come talk to her. If neither of these happens, I am not interested at all because I value my time more than anyone's looks. Story 71. There are Instagram accounts solely focused on cold approaching. They have many followers, and the women are usually receptive. It is just a man filming himself cold approaching. Story 72. I have been blessed. Since high school, I have never had to approach women. Enough of them approach me to satisfy my desire. Story 73. In today's climate, where every man is vilified as a predator waiting for his opportunity, never. Story 74. Done it a million times. I also talk to women that I am not trying to hit on in social settings. I cannot remember anything off the top of my head about being called creepy, and I do not care about rejection. Because I have to make the first move while approaching in most cases, I make them do all the work to start a committed relationship. Story 75. If you are approaching a woman, you have already lost the battle. Men performing at their best attract women to them and then choose one within their circle to talk to and focus on. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.